Azure Portal. It's us. Ooh, I'm
All
gonna
right,
fix
cool.
my hair
I think we're
or my
good.
lighting. Okay.
Daniel, can you send the link in the chat?
We're live! Woohoo! Hi, everyone. Ooh, my hair's a little crazy. Sometimes when the camera goes on, you gotta fix your hair. Hi, everyone. I am Chloe Condon, and I am joined today with the fabulous Natalie. Hello, Natalie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited because today you are going to be showing all of these students a bit project how to walk through the Azure portal. But before that, hi, students. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. So, because you're probably thinking, who is this crazy lady with orange hair talking to you? So hello, my name is Chloe Condon, and I worked with the last bit project cohort as well. It was super fun. We made some really, really awesome projects together last round. And I'm going to kind of be your host and your guide today. Shreya is actually going to teach me how to use the Azure portal today. So this will be a fun exercise. And I'm going to act a little bit kind of like it's my first time learning Azure. But just so you all know, my name is Chloe. I am a senior cloud advocate here at Microsoft, which means that I get to do really amazing content and video and tutorials and make some really, really cool projects to help demonstrate how Azure works. So today I'm really excited because y'all are working on a project that I actually got to see. I'm like, am I pointing the right way? I got to see Natalie make. And it's really cool that we're able to share this with you because we're going to touch a lot of things today, Natalie. We're touching the Azure portal. We're dealing with the Cognitive Services API. We are making an Azure function. So we're really putting all these pieces together. But that's a little bit about me. You'll be seeing a lot more of me throughout the program, and we'll be working together a lot. But Natalie, tell us, what is it that we're building today? And maybe for those who are tuning in who weren't in the last session, what did we build last time? And what are we building on today?
So I believe last week Bo ran you guys through how to make an Azure function, HTTP trigger function. And today we're going to build on that by making an Azure function that can detect beards using the Microsoft Face API.
Okay, so I love this. One of my favorite parts of Natalie's project was, was this your project, Natalie, or did you do a different one?
Mine was Face API, but Lisa used the Face API and did like the beard stuff.
That's right. So Lisa had this really awesome demo that was able to determine with the Microsoft Face API if it was a real beard or a fake beard, which I love because what a great example. And I guess she had this like knitted hat, right? And it had like a fake beard on it, and it was able to determine, is this real, is this not? Personally, I've worked with the Face API quite a bit on my Mario Kart astrology project. And what was really fun with that one is I used images of cosplayers, and oftentimes they'll wear like, masks or things on their face. So it was always fun to see if a Mario mustache or a fake Luigi mustache popped up as a real mustache. Usually not. Usually it's a little cartoonish. So let's see. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, y'all. So I've got the chat open here in another tab. If you have any questions along the way, if anything's confusing, if you want us to stop, if you're like, wait a second, I missed that, can you go back? Let us know. We are here live, and that's why we're doing this live. So Natalie's going to be driving. And I'm going to be writing. So this will be really fun. I'm super, super excited. Should we just get started, Natalie?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Daniel, if you can share our screen. Daniel's working behind the scenes here. Great. So I have the Azure portal up here. Super exciting stuff. Have the students worked with the Azure portal before?
Yeah, I think they should know how to make like the resources and stuff, but we're just going to be running through that anyway, just to be comprehensive.
Amazing. Okay, so for those who are maybe tuning in who weren't here last week, if I can find my cursor here, this is the Azure portal. Pretty exciting stuff. I'll show you real quick a little fun thing that I like about the Azure portal. You can actually make some pretty cool dashboards here. But if you go over here, you can actually get really creative with how this page works. You can add a bunch of little things in here, but I won't go too into it now. I'm getting distracted, Natalie. We got to talk about Azure functions. So tell me what to do. What should be my first step in getting this very important technology up and running to determine if my boyfriend's beard is real or fake.
The first step would be to make a function app by pressing create a resource.
Amazing. Seems easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going here to function app. I can also type it up here in the marketplace, but I make a lot of function apps, Natalie. I think I mostly make function apps.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So create a function app. I've got my subscription here. Resource group. I'm going to create a new one because this is a new project. And as I go through this, do you want to explain to the folks at home what all of these things are that I'm filling in here?
Yeah, sure. So a resource group is basically just like a collection of resources being like function apps, functions, API endpoints, logic apps, like everything is encompassed. It's just a way for you to like group your stuff together. You want to give it a name. For runtime, we're going to use node.js because it's written in JavaScript. So
go over here. Mm-hmm. Node.js, perfect. I've got my version here. And I am on the West Coast, so I am going to pick the West Coast. West Coast, West Coast. All right.
True.
Okay, now I'm here under hosting. I'm going to do Linux, and I am going to do app service plan for this one. Now, for monitoring, I usually turn this on. I usually enable application insights because I want to know what's going on with my app. So I have application insights turned on. I'm not going to add any tags for this one. So I think we can just review and create.
Yep.
All right. That was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So while this is happening, what is our next step? I imagine we need to connect this to something.
We will need to make a Cognitive Services Face API resource, which can also be done through the portal.
Amazing. So let's talk about Cognitive Services real quick. So have the students played with Cognitive Services yet, or is this our very first time?
No, it is their first time.
So exciting. Okay. Yeah. So, look, Bo waved to us in the chat. Hi, Bo. So good to see you. Whose emoji is that? Who is this person? I'm learning all kinds of things about the Bit Project Twitch today. So the Cognitive Services API is one of my favorite APIs. You used it in your project, right, Natalie?
I did. Yep.
How did you use it in yours?
I used the Face API, which basically analyzes like facial features and also your mood. So I use like the mood feature to find songs that match your mood.
Okay, which I love because, as most of you probably already know, I'm a big music buff, musical theater specifically. But I love the Face API. I play with it quite a bit. One of my favorite projects that I've ever made is using the Face API to get emotions from cosplayers to detect what emotions they're feeling to make astrology out of it. But what's really cool, and what I would recommend doing, if you're following along right now, you can totally do this right now. If you just search Microsoft Face API, really cool. You can literally upload a photo here, and it'll give you all the info from this face. So in this, there's a couple different things that you can do with the Face API, of course. Face detection, which is basically telling us where those 4 points are on where the face is in the image. So as you can see here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, but it's returning us a face ID, which is an individual ID for that specific face, and then the coordinates of where these 4 points on this box is around this lovely person's face. So you can go in here, you can actually play around and upload your own images, which I highly recommend doing. It's actually pretty cool to see how accurate it is with finding where all of the faces are in the image and to see the different face IDs. So I encourage folks to play around with different images. But what we're talking about today is a little bit more exciting because we're talking about emotions. So I'm going to click on this perceived emotion recognition, which is pretty cool. Like you can do this on multiple faces, like we can on the identifying face as part of this. But we not only get the face rectangle, but we also get all of these emotions back, which is really cool because it actually breaks it down into all these different things this person's clearly very, very happy because they are 0.999 happy. So they're V happy, as the kids would say. So I encourage you all to play around with this. It's really fun and really cool. And I have no doubt that you will come up with some really cool ideas on what you want to do with the Face API afterwards. I have a little bit too much fun with the Face API, Natalie.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost.
So we made this Azure function, and now we need to get the credentials from Cognitive Services to be able to attach it to this Azure function, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
So you probably want to go to the Azure Portal again.
All right, let's go. We're going to go to Portal, and I'm going to type in Cognitive Services here, and great. And I just want to...
You want to probably search up Face API instead.
Oh, that's right. Face API. Face API. Oops. We just did this, Natalie. I feel like I'm going.
Or if you click on the AI plus machine learning tab, it should be there also. Face. Yep.
Face. Whenever I'm trying to remember, I just think voguing. Okay. So create face. I'm going in here. So I have the subscription as usual. I'm going to assume we're going to use the same resource group.
Group, yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I remembered what it was, the project demo. I am in the West US. Now, Natalie, let's talk real quick about regions, because you are also on the West Coast. But let's say Bo was building this. Hi, Bo. Shout out to Bo. Bo is on the East Coast, correct?
Yeah,
so
he is.
Bo probably wants access to resources that are a little closer to him. So basically, wherever you're at geographically, or I'm sorry, I should rephrase that, wherever your users are at geographically. So whoever is using your application, when you're thinking about what region you want to choose and have these resources in, some things to consider. I have a video that I can share with y'all that breaks this down a little bit more. Are location, where your user's located. Really what you're trying to determine here is uptime and how much uptime you're going to have. So there's all sorts of fun things that come into play there when you're building giant applications, but we won't go too much detail because we're building a pretty simple Azure function. All right, so I'm going to call this one Bid Project. And for my pricing tier, I'm going to do, let's see, do this free one for fun. I think that should be good for us. All right, and then we're checking that we are certifying that we're not using this service for a police department in the United States. And we're going to skip through tags here. And I think we're ready to create, right?
Yep, should be good.
This is so quick and easy and simple, Natalie. It seems to me. All righty, so we're going to do a little magic here. What is my next step, Natalie? is there any sort of like documentation I need to look at? What should I be looking at?
Well, before you actually get on to looking at documentation, you probably want to make a new function inside your function app.
A function in my function? Oh my goodness. It sounds like function inception. Okay, so I'm going to find my function here. I will share my screen in a second here, y'all. Making sure I don't share any secret things with you. Okay, bit project demo. There we go. All right, so I am in my function. I'm going to move my tab over here. All right, I'm in my function here. I've got all my stuff, and I'm going to click on functions. All right.
You can press add.
Okay, let me get this here. Find my cursor. All righty.
Oh, actually, can you do this in the Bit Project 3 demo thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Let me get this in here. Sorry, y'all. I had the wrong tab open. Okay, here we go. The magic.
There we go. Okay, cool. We're going to make a new one here.
Amazing.
And we're going to select HTTP trigger because that's the one we want.
Got that.
For auth level, we're going to choose anonymous just for this because it'll be easier to test.
Okay.
And then you can give it a name. Yeah, like find beards or like beard detection. I don't know.
Find my beard.
Mhm. Good
Kind
name.
of looks like Find My Bear D, but we're gonna go with it.
Cool.
All right. Alrighty, and we're making that. Okay.
So before we actually start writing the function, we're gonna actually have to go back into your function app, the project demo 3.
Okay. Let's just go back
Probably
there.
find at the top. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you scroll down on the left navigation bar, there should be a tab called App Console
App Console.
or just Console, something like that. It's probably lower.
Going down. Here, console.
Yeah,
There
the
we
console.
go.
So basically, in our function app, we're going to be using a couple npm packages. And basically what an npm package is. So basically, this function app is hosted in Node.js, and npm stands for Node Package Manager. So when you're using a Node runtime environment, you have access to these things called npm packages. And each package is basically like a piece of code that has been written and put out there for you to use, and they do like a range of different things. For example, in our function today, we're going to be using one called parse multipart, which parses form data for us. And by using that package in our code, we like don't have to write any of the, like hard part ourselves. So yeah, basically npm allows you to import cool packages that already do a bunch of stuff for you. And we have to do some configuration to be able to use some of those packages.
NPM is great. Love NPM. Use it all the time. Get used to students of Bit Project. Get used to NPM. It's going to be in your life quite a bit.
Yeah. So
I love this ASCII
art.
art. This Azure ASCII art is beautiful. I wish I had it tattooed temporarily on my body.
Yeah, it's nice. But anyway, by clicking on console, you're basically taken to the root of your Azure function project. And here, if we run a command that's npm space init space -y and then -y.
All right.
This basically initializes an npm project in this directory. And what this means is that a new file called package.json is created. And basically, this is what the package.json file looks like. And essentially, this file is necessary in all projects that like use npm packages because it specifies your dependencies, which basically means the packages that you're like using in your code. So you won't be able to see the dependencies now, but we will after we install some packages. So we're going to install 2.
If you're ever wondering, if you're working on a Node project and you're like, why isn't this working? Check and see if you have your packages in a JSON file. That's typically why it's not running.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
But yeah, we're going to install 2 packages. And the first one is called parse multipart. So how you install an npm package is you just type npm install and then the name of the package. So for us, it's parse multipart, lowercase with a dash.
Parse
dash multipart.
Multipart?
Yeah.
Multipart.
Yep.
All right. And I just click enter.
Mm-hmm.
Seems too easy, Natalie. I don't know. And so parse multipart.
This is, no, that's fine. It's good. And then we're going to install a second one called node fetch. So you want to do npm install. I think you missed an npm there.
I missed my npm. I'm just like, install it.
Install and then node dash fetch.
Node dash. Stop trying to make fetch happen, Node. All right. There we go. And we're loading. And it's happening. Amazing. Okay.
So if you go in the left navigation, there should be a tab called app files somewhere.
We're gonna
it might be above. I'm not sure.
App service logs. We got app service plan. We're gonna find you app files. Application insights. App
files.
There
we go. App files.
There you are.
So if you look for the package.json file, now it's been created for you. And if you scroll down, there's an area that says dependencies inside the package.json. And you can see that the 2 that we've installed are written into the file for us. It basically tells like anyone using our project that these 2 packages have to be installed in order for our project to work.
Magic. It's very organized. That's like what I love about working specifically with working on node projects is just, it's very, you know where everything needs to be, and it's almost like you're creating your documentation. It's like you can't do this until you make until you make your file.
Makes it easy to use. So cool, our packages are installed, and now we're going to get on with writing the actual function. So if you go back into the functions tab and into our newly created one.
So exciting.
Yep.
All right.
You want to go into code plus test on the side.
Alrighty. And here we go.
Cool. So this is the template, and you can delete like the lines 4 to 8 of like the const name and response message because we're not going to be using that.
All right, it's gone.
Cool. So as like a general outline for this function, basically what it does is it will receive an image of like presumably a face, and it's going to return in the response body analysis about the person's facial hair. Okay. So pretty simple. And essentially, we don't really have like a place that our image is being sent from. You guys will actually add that later. But right now, we're just going to be assuming that it's being sent from an HTML form. And what that means is when an HTML form is receiving a file input, like an image, it basically sends over the data in an encryption type or enc type attribute that is multi-part / form data. And it's a little different from like how form inputs are usually sent over, which means that we're going to have to like parse it a little differently. But luckily, we have this nice package that will pretty much do the work for us. So we're going to find the documentation for parse multi-part, which Chloe already has pulled up, actually.
Already conveniently have here.
Yeah, so all NPM packages have like a documentation page that will basically tell you like what it does and how to use it. So we're in the usage section right now. And if you look at this body chunk, this is basically what your HTTP request body will look like when you send over form data. So that's just like how it's formatted. It basically has this WebKit form boundary, which is just like a random string of characters, and then a file or piece of data. And then if there's more files, because multi-part data allows you to send like multiple files or have multiple inputs, it would have another boundary and then like the data and then like another boundary and the data. And this boundary string is kind of important. It basically always has like this WebKit form part, and then the characters behind it can vary from request to request. So if we look at this code section down here, it basically tells us how to use the package. So the first thing you have to do is write var multipart equals require parse multipart. And using the require keyword basically tells you that we're using that package. So can you add that line at the very top of your Azure function?
Absolutely. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right one. Okay. So
you can add it outside of module.exports, actually.
Module. Go up here. All right. I'm going to do var multipart equals, and it was require.
Yeah.
Parse. Oops. Multipart.
Require.
Oop. I can spell. There we go. Equals.
Yeah, so that's basically the statement that tells us that we need that package in our code. And then if you go back to usage, yeah. So if we look at line 4, it has this function that is multipart.parse, which is the actual parsing function, and it takes in 2 parameters that we need to specify. So the first one is body. And if you go back to the Azure function, we're going to specify that now. Okay. So inside module exports, we need to declare a function called body.
Okay.
Body. And this is just equal, or set it equal to our request body, which can be accessed by rec.body.
Okay. So say that one more time.
Yeah.
So inside the body.
Yeah. So basically, in order to parse our like actual body, we need to pass in the body as a parameter. So we're going to declare a variable called body.
Body. Okay. Let me go here. Okay. There we go. Oops. Sorry. I've lost my. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm putting this here.
Yeah.
Under modules.
Yeah.
And so we're doing. Go for it.
Var body equals request or req.body. So if you look at the top of module exports, the function is actually receiving two parameters, context and request. And request just refers to the HTTP request that the function is like being called from. So if we want to access the body of that, we just do request.body.
Okay, great. I love
And
it.
the second parameter that we need is the boundary string. So we're going to declare a new variable called boundary.
Okay, boundary. Oops, I can spell, I promise.
Yeah.
Equals.
And this one is a little trickier because we can't actually hard code it because the characters can change, but the package actually also has a function for parsing the boundary string. And how you use that is you want to do multi-part, which is basically our reference to the npm package, and then dot get boundary, camel case actually.
I see, because we need a very specific set of the information that we're getting.
Yeah.
Boundary.
And for the parameters, you're going to pass in rec.headers.
Rec.headers.
Or inside the parentheses.
Oops, sorry. I'm coding in different monitors here. There we go.
And then square brackets.
Alrighty. All right.
And then inside the brackets, a string content type.
Okay. So
basically
that down.
Yeah. So this is basically saying the get boundary function receives like a string containing your like boundary string, and it'll parse it out. And where our boundary string is located is inside the request headers. And this is kind of hard to show unless you actually like log out your request body, which if any of you guys want to do, that's possible. But basically, your request will have a header called content type, and that's where your boundary string is located. By calling this function, we're just telling them to pull out the boundary string, just like the WebKit part, so we can actually find where our data is.
Perfect.
So for the last part, we just have to call the actual multipart.parse function. And we can do that by declaring a new variable. We're going to call it parts.
All right.
So just underneath what we just wrote.
Parts, var parts.
Yeah, equals. And then we're going to call the parse function, which will be multipart.parse with an uppercase P, just because that's how they specified it.
Oh, with a
multipart dot, yeah.
Multipart dot parse.
Yeah. And like in usage, we have to pass in our body and boundary into the parameters.
All right. So in this case, it would be
just body and boundary.
Just body and boundary. Okay.
Yeah, because we already declared them above.
All
yeah.
Right.
So if you go back into the documentation for parse multipart, whatever. Basically, we're kind of just like copying their example code here, but the important part is that parts, which is the object that is returned by the parse function, is an array of all of your data inputs. So our array, since we only have one image coming in, it's going to be of length 1. And each object inside our array is basically a representation of our data file with a name, type, and then the actual raw data. So how we want to like access our image. So if you go back to your Azure function, we're going to pull our image out of this parts array that has been returned. So we're going to declare another variable called just image, I guess, var image.
Image, all right.
And basically, parts is an array of length 1. So we want to grab the first index, which should be where our image is. So parts and then index 0, okay. Because it's an array.
Oh, wait. Parse.
Yeah. Or parts.
Parts. Oh my gosh. Too many things.
Yeah, there's a lot. And then square brackets 0, because we're getting the first item of the array.
Part 0, okay.
And then dot data, because this part 0 object has a file name or like type and then data, but we really only care about the data inside. Amazing. So that's what we're getting.
So we've just basically defined most, if not all, of the things that we need to kind of get all the information we need from the API and be able to get what we need from it.
Yeah, so we're basically parsing the entire HTTP request body and getting our image file out so we can then send that over to the Face API.
Amazing.
So that was kind of like the first half. So the second half is actually using the face API. So outside of your module.exports, we're going to define a new function.
Ooh, okay, so I'm going to save this.
Yeah, probably good to say.
And you said we're going to make another function?
Yeah, or inside like this index.js file, you're going to define a new function underneath module.exports.
Gotcha. And I am going to zoom out of this and close this portal here. There we go. Let me refresh here. There we go. Okay. Code and test, and we're here. All right, I'm back.
Yeah. So you want to go underneath module.exports so we can define like a whole new function.
Alrighty, so we're going under here. Let's go down. Let me make this screen a little bigger here. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going to define a new async function actually. So it's going to be async function and then the name, which we're going to call like analyze image.
And then async function. Sorry, I'm just checking our chat real quick. Ooh, we had a question. What is uptime? Great question, Daniel. I believe that was Daniel. Uptime basically refers to the amount of time that your app is smoothly up and running, online, no disturbances. So you can think about uptime being really important for a lot of people, obviously. We all want our websites to be online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But things do happen with the cloud and servers and things of that nature. So uptime really refers to the amount of time that your application's online. With Azure, of course, there's different guarantees of different amounts of uptime depending on what service plans you use. But when you're thinking of uptime, you're really thinking your website is up and running. Everything is, so in reference to what we were speaking about before, when we talk about regions, we're really talking about what is the availability and closeness to our users. And, let's say you're doing Black Friday and you really, really need to make sure that your website is up all day for Black Friday because you want to sell all of the things that you can for your clothing company. One of the benefits of using a service like Azure is able to ensure that you will have a certain percentage of uptime. So, for example, if your site gets totally, bombarded with a bunch of different purchasers and they're coming to your website for Black Friday, it's going to know you're able to make the settings to make sure that you're able to support that amount of load on your website, that everything is going to be up and running smoothly. So it's kind of uptime refers to that guarantee of up and running time. So it kind of defines itself in the word. Anyway, enough about uptime, Natalie. Let's get back to our async function, which you said we're going to call analyze image, right? And I didn't spell function right, did I? No, I did.
No, you just haven't finished the declaration, so it'll probably error.
Analyze. Oops, I'm going to actually spell it right. Analyze image. And all right. And I'm assuming this
parameter, which is just the image. Yeah, it'll take in a parameter called just like image.
Image, okay.
Yeah. Cool. So inside, we're going to declare two variables, or constants actually, which are the subscription key and endpoint.
Okay, so tell us about subscription keys and endpoints as I type these very long words.
Yeah. So basically, your subscription key is like what allows you to actually access your API resource. So whenever you make like a request to that resource, you need to pass along a key that like proves that you have access to it. And your endpoint is where you're actually sending your HTTP request to an API, which is obviously important. So if you were doing this like privately, you could just put in your key, but since we're not trying to like reveal any information, we've already configured the key and endpoint in application settings. So we're just going to access them through, for the subscription key, it should be process.m if you want to write that.
Okay, so let's see. Where we're doing our, sorry, I got a little lost here. So we made the subscription key. Do we still want to do the second variable here?
Yeah, endpoint. That should also be declared somewhere.
Okay. And should I just call it endpoint? Is it okay to just
Yeah,
call it
that's
endpoint?
fine.
Okay.
And subscription key should be set to process.env, which just refers to our environmental variables. It doesn't have to be in a string because it's a variable.
Gotcha. Process.env.
And then square brackets.
Square bracket.
And then inside is the string name of our environment variable, which is face_key.
Face_key.
Yeah, and
Not
it's
face.
basically the same exact thing for endpoint, except it's face_endpoint. So you can just copy paste that over.
Making my job easy.
Yeah, if you're actually following along, this is like only necessary if you're trying to hide like the keys, which we have to. So,
which
but
we're
you can
doing
also
this
just put
because
in,
we don't want people using Chloe's account for things.
Yeah. So this should be face_endpoint.
Face endpoint. All right. And this will make a lot more sense, I think, when we show them how we've configured this on the back end as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically, before we start like actually making any calls, we should probably look at the documentation for cognitive services. So you also have that pulled up. Nice. So if we scroll down, this kind of like walks you through how you could go about calling it.
All the different details, like how many faces in one image. So any kind of questions that, like, as you're building your projects and you're thinking, how can I use it? You're probably going to come up with these things like, all right, like how big can the file be? What are the ideal parameters? Like, there's going to the documentation. I think when you're building one of these projects and you're kind of thinking like, is this going to be able to serve me? Great place to start. So we are here. We've got all this. I assume we want to know these parameters.
Actually, the first thing we need to look at is this request URL because it's a little different from your endpoint. So basically, if you look at it, it's your endpoint plus this extra /face/version1/detect, and then that's the part that we should like copy paste into our code. So if you could just like copy paste the first part.
The first part, this part that I have highlighted?
Yeah, that's fine. And then inside our code, we're going to declare a new variable called URI base.
Okay.
This is basically specifies like the actual place where we're going to make our fetch request to. So.
Okay. And where am I putting this? I'm putting this in.
Just underneath endpoint.
Underneath endpoint. There we go. All right. And this is, we're calling URI
base.
And is this just a variable or this is a constant as well?
It's a constant.
Oops. And oops, I already forgot it.
URI base.
URI base. Okay.
Yeah.
URI base.
And then you want to set that equal to, so in JavaScript, you can do something called string templating, which is if you declare a string with backticks instead of like quotes, then you can actually like directly add in variables instead of like concatenating them. So you're going to do backticks here.
Okay, backticks. So backtick is this guy, right?
Like the little underneath the escape key, I think.
Oh, wait a second. This little dude.
Yeah. And then you want to do a $sign.
$sign. Okay, amazing.
With curly braces.
With curly braces. Cool.
So when you do templating, anything inside the curly braces will be treated as a variable as opposed to a string, which allows you to like directly insert variables, which is just like easier syntax than like using the plus signs to like add them together. Yes. So what we want inside the curly braces is our endpoint.
Okay. And our endpoint is just endpoint.
Yeah. And then after the curly braces, you're going to copy paste the /face thing inside the backticks though.
Inside the black. Yes. So from here, this thing.
Yeah.
Because we've got HTTPS, the endpoint. All right, cool. Okay. So I'm just putting that here.
Yeah. So this is where we actually need to send our request to the Face API.
Okay.
So, and what we have to do now is kind of define some parameters for our API call because there's a lot of data that the Face API can return to you, but you do have to specify what exactly you're asking for. So for us, we're going to, you go into the documentation actually, there's actually a list of parameters that you can specify. So the cognitive services documentation. Right. Yeah, request parameters. So there's face ID, face landmarks. This is like the ID string, and landmarks are like the 4 coordinate points. What we really care about is this return face attributes parameter.
Yes.
Basically, you can set it.
Lovely
Yeah,
attributes.
yeah, you can set it equal to a string that will basically specify like what attributes you want. It can be, as it says here, like age, gender, emotion, hair, makeup, as many of those as you want, just like in a string.
Just like
For us, for us, the only one we care about here is facial hair.
Yeah,
So
we're just determining beards.
yeah, back in our Azure function, we're going to add this in as a parameter. So there is an object called URL search params that we're going to use. So how we use it is we're going to make a new parameter called params. So let params.
Let's see. So I am going here. I'm going to say let params
equals a new URL search params.
URL search params. All right.
Yeah. And that will take in an object. So you want to add curly braces. And then inside our curly braces, we basically want to specify a key value pair, which is our parameter name, and then parameter value. Okay. So yeah, inside the curly braces for URL search params.
I think I have an extra little one here. Okay, so I have URL. Let me delete this. I'm gonna just, oops. I'm gonna make it so people can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, yeah. URL search
params. Yeah.
And then I am gonna make sure that I deleted any extra things here. Okay, so I did.
And then inside the parentheses, curly braces. Okay. So this is declaring like an object with key value pairs. So we only have one set of parameters, but this object basically makes it easy for you to add more parameters. But for us, the only one we have is return face attributes. So we're going to add that in, return face attributes.
Return face attributes.
And we're going to set that with a colon, so a colon afterwards.
Okay, colon. Oops, I'm doing it in the wrong place. Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to set that to facial hair because that's the one attribute that we want.
And let's see.
And it should be a string.
That? Facial hair. Like.
And facial hair, just like camel case.
Facial hair.
Yeah.
Not facial hair, facial hair.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
So that's our only request parameter. And again, like if you wanted to add more, you would just add a comma and then like
if we wanted to know if they were happy or sad, or we could add those things in here. But we just need the hair.
Oh, you don't need a semicolon. You don't need a semicolon because it's an object. So
there we go.
And then finally, we're going to make our actual request to the Face API. So outside of parameters, or outside of your params object,
down here,
we're going to say let response.
Let response.
You can actually indent this because it's still inside the original function.
Yes.
And then we're going to say await fetch.
Let response. Oops. Should I have this in here?
It should be inside your original analyze image function, which it looks like it's
okay.
But are you in a curly brace for your function?
I am. I must be, right? Or
yeah, you might want to just
move this one down here. Wait a second.
Can you just add a curly brace on the very last line?
Yeah, we'll do that.
A closing brace.
We'll put this little guy here. All right.
Yeah. Okay. That looks like it's good now. So we want to say let response is equal to await fetch.
Okay. Let response equal. Oops, sorry, I lost control here. Okay. Let response equal await fetch.
Await should have one eye.
Await. Okay.
So basically, await means that you're waiting for a promise to resolve. And in JavaScript, a promise is like when you like assign a variable to a value, it's like equal to that value. But if you assign that to a promise, it's basically a value that will be resolved sometime in the future.
We're waiting on it. We don't have it yet, but it's coming.
So a fetch call returns a response because it's making a call to an API and it's waiting for the API response. So in order to like wait for that to finish, we need to use the await keyword.
Okay.
which will basically say like, wait for this fetch call to finish and then assign it to the response variable. And this is also actually why we have an async function here. So whenever you use a wait in a function, it needs to be an async function because those like keywords just go together. So
Very true.
yeah. So inside our await fetch, the first parameter we need to specify is our API endpoint, which is actually the URI base. So you just want to write the URI base. And then you're going to actually concatenate a question mark, a single question mark.
Question mark.
And then you're going to add
$sign.
Actually, yeah, we can do a $sign. Oh, there's backticks though.
Ooh, they're not. I'm going to do real backticks. There we go. Backticks. All right.
And then you can do a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then $sign, curly braces, which will specify that we want to put a variable in here. So inside the curly braces, we're going to do params.toString.
Params.toString, because those are what we are getting and what we, oops, I need to put toString. And we are converting those to a string.
Yeah, so when you call toString on a URL search params object, it'll basically convert it into a like query parameter string for you. So you don't have to do like, it's just easier. Okay. And then you want to do a comma after that.
All right.
Outside of the backticks.
Outside of the backticks, perfect.
So the second parameter that this fetch function calls is actually an object. So you want to add curly braces.
All right.
And then inside the curly braces, this is where you basically specify like what type of fetch call it is, your headers and your body. Okay. So we're going to add in a method and then colon, and we're going to set that to post because there are like post is like one of the really common HTTP requests. Basically, a GET request is asking for data from an endpoint. A POST request means that you're also like sending data over to that endpoint, and that's relevant to us because we're sending over an image to the Face API.
And so,
and then
for
post, I think post should be capitalized.
Post should be all caps. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we're not doing post, what would be an example of something else we would put here, just to give people an example of different methods?
So the other really common one is like get, and that's just like simply asking for data. Like if you're not sending anything over to that endpoint, but since we're posting an image over to the endpoint, we need to specify that it's a post request. Because
really when we're using websites, we're either posting information or we're like receiving information back. So I always try to think of post and get and like, all right, I'm posting something, I'm getting it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then the body should just be our image, which is the parameter that was being passed in. So just set it to image.
Image. Okay.
Okay. And then we have to add in some headers. So you're going to write headers, colon, and this is actually going to be an object. So curly braces. And if you go back into the cognitive services documentation, it'll actually tell you what headers you need.
Okay, so go here.
So you should scroll down.
Headers.
Request headers. So the first one is content type. And ours, so if you go back into the function, you're going to add a header called content type. It should be in a string. So content type. And then it's content dash type, and then colon. And for us, we're sending over binary data because our image was sent over from a form in like a binary form. So how we specify that is application/octet stream.
Application/octet stream. Now that's a new word.
Yeah.
Octet.
And then if you go back into the documentation, there's a second header that we need. And can you copy paste this OCP subscription key thing?
Oh, yeah.
Basically, this is our header for the subscription key, and you just need to set it to this because it's what the API specifies.
Gotcha.
So you're going to add another one.
I'm going to put that in quotes.
Yep.
Good call, copying that, because that would have taken a long time to write.
And then we're going to set that to our subscription key, which is just the variable that we declared in the beginning. Cool.
Alrighty.
So we're almost there.
There.
Yeah. So we want to actually get our response in a JSON format. So we're going to declare another variable called data.
Okay.
underneath your entire fetch
here.
call. Yeah.
All right.
Do like let data equals.
Let data
and then
equal.
You're going to do await
Wait.
response.json.
All right. And this is what we were talking about earlier about that kind of async
Promise.
that we have.
Yeah, so this like .json function actually returns a promise, so you have to use the await keyword to like make sure it's resolved before you're moving on. And the final thing here is just to return our data variable, which is just our analysis.
Return data.
Cool.
Amazing. Okay.
So back up in module.exports, we're going to call our analyze image function that we just wrote. So underneath your image declaration var image thing.
Under var image. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. We're going to say var like analysis, I guess.
Var
analysis is equal to await again.
Awaiting.
And then analyze image, which is our analyze image function.
Is it await?
Or you don't, it's not dot, it's just await and then space analyze image.
And remind me, analyze image, did we do that in, where
it's just our function name.
This one. Okay, so this is the function that we're using to actually analyze the image. All right. So we're awaiting, so basically what this is saying is await for analyze image before analysis.
Yeah, and then the parameter that we're passing in is our image. So you just want to add.
Okay. Oh, here.
Yeah, and then image inside.
All right.
Okay. Cool. So theoretically, our analysis should be stored in that variable. And the last thing we want to do is just return that inside our response body. So if you see this context.response thing, this is where you can specify what your response body is. So like when someone makes a request to this Azure function, it's going to respond with something. And here's what we can specify what the body should be. So instead of response message, we want to put analysis.
Yes. Ooh, we have let's see, you need to change the URI base input in the fetch method call to match how you named it when you instantiated it. Good catch. Okay. URI base. We will get to that in a second here. Let's see. Okay. Should we do this other part first?
Yeah, wait, you can actually scroll down and then just change URI base to lowercase b or uppercase b when you declare it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
That should be good. Yeah, thank you. And then in line 14, body, you need to set that equal to analysis because what we want to respond with is the analysis of the face and not.
Okay, so what we're doing, just so we're putting body response message, and then sorry, I totally blanked.
Instead of body, so our response body, we want to return the analysis and not this like template response message thing. So we're going to replace response message with analysis.
Analysis. There we go. Analysis.
Yeah.
All right.
And that should be all that you need for the function. So if you save it.
Save it.
Just to make sure.
To save. All right. Cool.
And then we can just like run through the code.
Let's do it. All right. I'm going to zoom in so everybody can see back at home. It doesn't have to put their glasses on. Okay. So let's walk through.
Oh, wait. Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
At the top, underneath multipart, you're going to write var fetch is equal to require node fetch. And this is just the second package that we're using.
Right.
And why we need this is because our fetch function is coming from this node fetch package. So inside the require, you want to specify node dash fetch.
Node dash fetch.
Yeah, so this node fetch package basically, in the browser, there's like a fetch function that you can use. Since this is like not browser JavaScript, we don't have that here. So this package basically allows us to use that same function within like a Node.js runtime environment. So this fetch thing is what we're actually using to make the API request. So yeah, we need to make sure we require that so they know that the package is being used.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you probably want to save that again.
Save again.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I'm gonna get all my tabs in order here. Okay. There we go. And we're back.
Yeah. So at the top, we have 2 lines that are specifying what packages that we're using. And then inside our module that exports, this is the code that is parsing our HTTP request. So using our like parse multipart package, we're basically getting the part of our request that contains our image data out, and then passing that into the second function that we wrote, which is called analyze image. So we go to analyze image, we have our key endpoint, and then based on the documentation from the cognitive services, we're specifying our like URI base parameters that we want, which can change depending on like what data you want to get from the face API. And then we're using this fetch function to make an HTTP request to the face API. And then we're receiving the data back and then returning it in our function, and then returning that from our Azure function.
Amazing. Wow. We did a lot, Natalie.
Yeah.
That was fun in a very short amount of time. Amazing. Okay. So did we finish all the code that we needed for this?
Yeah, that should be all we need to analyze facial hair. So we can actually test this, but it'll probably have to be from my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, let's share Natalie's screen. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. Oop, I turned off my video. Okay. Daniel or whoever is producing, we're gonna share Natalie's screen here in just a second. Well, yeah. This is like really, what I really liked about this is the visualness of the portal in building this, because I think what's really nice for the Bit Project students to play around with this is that they're going to know, okay, all of my resources in Azure, because when you're working in the terminal, it can get a little abstract. And I think what's really cool about the portal is just having everything in one place. So if you get lost at all, Natalie and I are here to help you. We can help walk through that. Let's see. Do we have some? Let's look at the chat here. If Daniel and Shreya are live, if you can share Natalie's stream. Amazing. Yes. Wait, there we go.
Okay, cool. So basically right now I'm in a app called Postman, and it basically allows you to test posting HTTP requests. Since we don't have like an HTML page that we're going to test our function from, this is just like the easiest way to check if it's working. So how you use Postman is we're going to specify that it's a post method versus all of these other possible method types. Here's the URL to the function that we just wrote, basically. And what we have to do is send in a file in the request body that is an image of a face. So I have this. Actually, I don't want to use it. I have this picture. Oh, I don't think you can see it, but it's just like a dude with a beard. And if you press send, it'll basically test sending the request to the Azure function.
Nice. So this is the way for us to test out that that the requests we're making are actually working. And it looks like it did.
Yeah. So this is what. So if you remember, in our body, we specified an analysis object. So it's saying analysis, and our actual object has all of this data about the face. So the face ID and rectangle are like just automatically returned every single time you make a request. And here inside face attributes, you can see the parameter that we wanted to get, which is facial hair, is inside, and it has like a mustache, beard, and sideburns like number that will tell you, I think it's from like 0 to 1, and it's like how much of a beard the person has. So apparently this guy does have facial hair, which is correct.
Pretty high majority of facial hair, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Like now all of the students know how they can go in here and be able to let's walk through everything we did. Okay, so we made an Azure function. We then made a cognitive service resource. So we're able to get the subscription key and our face API key. And then basically the code that we wrote today is just, in short, telling the face API, hey, when we send this request, when an image is uploaded, give us the response from the Cognitive Services API to tell us what's going on with this person's beard. It's a very professional way of saying it, of course.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, I have a minute or two to spare here. I have to hop onto another screen, or onto another stream, I should say. I almost said scream, Natalie. Maybe it's my subconscious. But what I will do, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I have to run to another stream, but Natalie, I trust that you'll be able to answer any.
Yeah, I'll be here to answer stuff.
You basically taught me today, and it was wonderful. And I am so excited to see the awesome, amazing Azure Functions projects that y'all are going to build. And I will be seeing a lot more of you soon. But Natalie, thank you so much for
no problem.
walking me through this today.
Thank you for coming today.
Of course, super fun. Always a pleasure to build something with you, Natalie. So I'm going to sign off. Daniel can even hop in if he wants to give a what is the person's name who does the After the Real Housewives? Andy. Daniel's sort of our Andy. He can do the recap of Natalie. All right, y'all. I will see you very soon in the next stream that we're doing. But Natalie, I'll let you take it away with questions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nat.
Thank you. Daniel, do you want to come? Okay, there's a question that's how do you upload the image in Postman? So basically, I can see in Postman, there's a place where you can specify your request body, and then I can show you actually. Shreya, can you share my screen?
I'll hop out to make things easier.
Or Daniel, who's controlling this? Okay. Well, in Postman, basically there's a place where you can like upload files or like specify, because Postman allows you to like test HTTP requests, which means that okay, cool. So this is the Postman.
That sounds good.
What? Okay. Can you share my screen?
Then we won't.
Yeah. So this is Postman. You can inside this like body tab, you can basically specify like any inputs and then what type of input it is. So text or file. And then if you specify file, it'll let you like upload an image, which is how you can test. So hope that makes sense. How are you going to use the HTTP trigger to work on an HTML website? So you're going to test this by making your own HTML page, and then in the JavaScript for that page, you're going to make a request to your own function. So that should be in week 3. So you could like, yeah, that's where you'll be making your request to your own function. So content. I think it's like, it just like refers to, I think you can use it to like do log statements, and it'll like log in your like file system logs and stuff, but.
So we need the stand-up.
Yeah, context doesn't like really use that much, I feel like.
You guys decide if it's going to be Discord or Zoom?
Discord.
Everything.
Yeah, if you do like context.log, it'll log it inside your like file system. And oh, and then context also is used to access the response body. So
people from a chat or even ban them.
it's just like
Okay.
a default pointer to like your response body, and
few more hands on
it's
deck.
like already
them on what your expectation
done for you when you make an Azure function. So like that's just how you access
there's a shit
both
ton
the
of
request and response.
you're like
I think.
struggling to manage those. That's just going to ruin your day. So make sure that
or for the request, there's a request object that's REQ, and then for context,
I think
if you do context.res, like I think that's the most
fleshed out plan.
like that's what you would mainly use it for.
Yeah.
So context.res
Emily,
allows you, that's a reference to your response body. So whatever you're sending back in your Azure function, for us it was like our analysis,
the events.
Context.res is how you would set your response body. So that's pretty much like what you have to know about context.
Okay, and that's pretty much it from my end. Thanks, guys. Bye.
So I don't think are there any more questions about any of the code or stuff? You're going to be doing something similar to this for your homework, so it will probably make more sense when you like also follow through this yourself. I can't hear you.
Oh, hey, Natalie, thanks so much for doing such an awesome job today in the stream. Like, I was so impressed, and the project is so cool. And yeah, just want to say.
I think we're good now.
Okay, cool.
If there's no more questions.
Well, bye everyone. See you guys next week.